What's up, world? Welcome to a new episode of the Brian Janeau Show. As you already know, I am Brian Janeau. And shout out to everybody that's been listening, watching, subscribing, viewing on all podcast platforms, Brian Janeau Show, and also on YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Brian Janeau Show. Thank you for everybody who's been watching, listening, subscribing, commenting, whatever, man. Thank you guys. If you've been rating, reviewing on all podcast platforms, appreciate it. Really, 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 really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode tonight. And let's get into it. It is wrestling life. Yeah, it's time to get into a review of Raw and Smackdown, and let's get into it. So, Smackdown just went off, so I'm gonna talk about that first because it is the A show. Let's be real. Smackdown is the fucking A show. Let's get that out the way. So Smackdown just went off here in Houston. Um, Incredible show again, like always. SmackDown I don't know what it is about SmackDown. Since I was a kid, when they brand split the first time with SmackDown and Raw, SmackDown's always just had my attention. SmackDown's always been a better show, and no matter what, SmackDown just always has this thing about it that will always, you know, take over and become bigger than what it is. So I think that this show is incredible, man. Now again, people could get pissed off because SmackDown teases Bray Wyatt to start off the show, and then it's like he's up next, and then they go into Sammy's the New Day, Kofi Kingston versus Sami Zayn. And listen, I get it, advertising it, but you got to know Bray Wyatt is not coming out at the beginning of the fucking show. That shit just ain't happening. He's at the end of the show where it makes sense, or yeah, maybe the beginning, but somebody like that is advertised like he's advertised, you're gonna put that shit at the end. Let's be real. But really, it starts off really not even with that. It starts off with um Karrion Cross and Scarlett getting into an accident at the beginning of the show, and Drew McIntyre coming out of nowhere and beating the living hell out of Karrion Cross, which is another way, like I said, of this rivalry continuous. And I didn't expect this rivalry to end after Extreme Rules. I think they're gonna fight at, like I said, Crown Jewel. They're gonna fight at Crown Jewel. Now, who maybe uh caused the accident with Karrion Cross and Scarlett? That might be a different conversation. That might be an interesting conversation. Now, if it's Drew, that might be interesting because then it's like, is Drew turning heel? Which I actually think Drew's better when he's a heel and not a face. I think he actually fits a heel persona better. He's a Scottish psychopath and not the Scottish warrior. I think it is a difference between a Scottish psychopath and a Scottish warrior. It's a massive fucking difference. So, and when he was the Scottish psychopath, that motherfucker was running through people. And it's been a cool face run for him, but let's be real. He's better when he's the off the hinge, whooping everybody's ass type of person. And he needs to get back to that. Now, and I'm not gonna say Karrion Cross turns face in this situation either because he's a heel too. But it's kind of like I rather see two heels go against each other than two faces, and I think that is kind of what this is gonna be, and I'm looking forward to it. Then he goes into the Sami Zayn Kofi Kingston match to start off Raw, start off SmackDown, I should say. A good fucking match. I mean, of course, this blood, the New Day comes out, and the first thing they say is kind of what we all know is that record. I think it stands at what 483 days or some shit, 138 days, something like that. They said, um, which a lot of people have been saying will probably be the next title defense for the Bloodline, particularly Usos, will be the New Day because that record in 30 days is going to be kind of the Usos. And so if they fight each other at Crown Jewel, it gives the New Day a reason to break to keep that record from being broken. Also, every time those two teams fight, it's a classic. So I'm looking forward to it. If that is the case that they're gonna run again, if you're gonna rerun that, let's do it. I mean, let's physically do it. Um, but this is pretty interesting. The storyline, the bloodline, is always gonna be pretty interesting with Sami Zayn, and you didn't really see Jimmy this episode. It was really centered around three people: Sami Zayn, Solo Sakara, and Jey Uso, which is the three people that kind of keeping the storyline kind of relevant. Let's be real. Like Solo Sakura has kind of got his big brother in his ear, but he also got this guy who's actually accomplished more in WWE technically, and Sami Zayn in his ear, in his other ear. So it's kind of like an interesting dilemma to see who do you side with, Joe, the brother of somebody that you actually, that your cousin and your other brother is like, I fuck with dude. Like, why are you gonna get mad at him? So it's an interesting dilemma that they put themselves in with this, and it's just those three. And I think that it show. I think WWE was trying to see if that's the bloodline, like if that's the real, if that's the storyline that everybody likes about this story. Is that the thing they like? The part that they liked about the storyline is the fact that it's Solo Sakara, it's Jey Uso, and it's Sami Zayn. It's those three elements. Because Jimmy, you don't really need Jimmy like that. I mean, Jimmy's there, but Jimmy's always like the it's cool. We could move on to the next thing type of person. And Roman's not there because Roman just is, that's just not what Roman does. He already made his scheduled appearance for the week. He's done with making appearances for this week. He was on Raw. He's good. But yeah, this storyline was pretty interesting. It's always gonna be interesting. Sami Zayn gets a call on his phone before he goes out for the match against Kofi Kingston, and it's Roman Reigns saying to Jay, "You gotta cost this man a match Monday." It's like cost him the match Monday, which I will talk about in the Raw review. But he was like, "You gotta cause this man the match Monday. I told you get him, make him win by any cause, and he lost, and it's your fault." So it's kind of interesting, and to see Jay finally kind of help Sammy was very interesting because Jimmy wanted to do it Monday, and he was like, "Nope, let him fight." So to see him have to help Sami Zayn was kind of interesting. It's an interesting storyline. It's always going to be an interesting storyline. But that part of that storyline, particularly those three individuals, it was pretty interesting to see on SmackDown because you didn't have Paul Heyman, you didn't have Roman, and you didn't even have Jimmy. It was those three people. It was those three elements. Okay, is the storyline really centered around those three? So it's kind of interesting to see. Um, which goes into which goes into um them building up Solo Sakara for the upcoming Fatal Four Way, which Karrion Cross was supposed to be a part of for the Intercontinental Championship match, which is a really dope concept to have. And I like the fact that they didn't just throw four random ass people in this damn match. It really made sense. Sheamus, who has been a throne in Gunter's side or Walter's side for the last couple of months, and then you add into the fact that you know Karrion Cross was trying to make his place in this company. Of course, he didn't participate because of the accident, and Drew McIntyre kind of attacking him. And then you have Solo Sakara, who is clearly in the best storyline you got in Solo Sakara, and he is the only one in the bloodline that technically doesn't have money, that doesn't have the gold around his waist, and it would make an interesting conversation. Don't think he's gonna beat him, but it would be interesting. Um, and Ricochet, who maybe okay, he's probably a little bit of a random person, but he's been Intercontinental Champion, and he's the only one in that whole conversation that has been Intercontinental Champion. So it makes sense to have him there because he's the last person that kind of no Gunter beat Shinsuke Nakamura. I think he beat Ricochet. I forgot who he beat for that title. I think it was Ricochet who he beat for the title. So it makes sense to give him another shot at it. But yeah. But before all that, you got to see Rey Mysterio go up to Triple H, which is another thing I gotta talk about. Triple H is starting to become like the new era of Vince McMahon, which is kind of interesting to me. Where he's not like he doesn't have his wife, he's not a part of the authority. He's kind of starting to become the COO of the company again, but not so douchey. I guess, like, cause he's not gonna get in the ring. We already know he's not going to get in the ring. That's not his place anymore. He can't do that anymore. Which is another thing I'm gonna talk about on the Raw thing. But it's kind of interesting to see him now be kind of the boss, the owner of the kind of the creative guy of the company. And to see Rey Mysterio in the backstage area with Triple H, that was pretty dope to see. Him, in that storyline. Listen, look. I've always said I don't like the Judgment Day storyline. It's kind of stupid. I don't like it. Nobody's really the leader of that damn group. Well, Finn Balor's now starting to become the leader because they're going to start pushing Finn more. But other than that, it never really felt like a true leader was there. And now it's Finn. Clearly, it's Finn. So, but I didn't like the storyline. Dominic Mysterio is getting heat, but he's only getting heat because he's still a Mysterio and he's beating up his father. Like that's kind of the only heat he gets. Yeah, when he picks up the mic, but we all know he can't talk on a microphone, so we don't give a shit. We just boo him. But to see Triple H and Rey Mysterio backstage, that was pretty dope. And the storyline of him saying, "Look, man, I can't be on Raw. I'm not gonna fight my son. I'm just not gonna fight my son," which I've been saying for a while. That if they're gonna make them two fight at any point, you probably wait until WrestleMania. If that's the case, if Ray does fight, if you could kind of convince Ray to fight Dominic, it's gonna be at WrestleMania. Let's get that out the way. They're gonna drag the storyline. That's a good point. I think you should drag the storyline. And another thing that we haven't seen in a minute, somebody leaving the brand and actually saying, "Listen, I want to leave." Well, technically quit, but I'd rather him being on SmackDown than being on Raw, which makes sense because now it's starting to become unblurred a little bit. Even though you're starting to still see certain people on Raw and SmackDown, the fact that they had to tell us Bray Wyatt is on SmackDown now, the fact that Ray is technically saying, "I do not want to be on Raw anymore. I want to be on SmackDown." That's a big fucking thing because that helps a lot of situations out. Because unlike a lot of people that's like, I don't care if it's a brand split or not. I actually do because I remember growing up with the brand splits in Raw and SmackDown. Raw had their particular guys, SmackDown had their particular guys. The thing about this is that I can understand the women's tag team titles because you don't really have that many women yet in both division in that division yet. But once Charlotte come back, when Becky comes back, if you could get Naomi and Sasha Banks to come back, and you could even bring in some more NXT girls and level them up and bring them in and bring some more people in. I can easily see them saying, "Okay, Raw, you got one women's tag team titles, and SmackDown, you got your own women's tag team titles." And I can see that happening in the next couple of months. Definitely, especially like after WrestleMania when the draft does happen, I can see the women's tag team champions being like, "Yo, I don't want to wrestle on SmackDown or Raw anymore. I want to just wrestle on my exclusive brand that I was drafted to." Which prompts them to say, "Okay, cool. Well, now we're gonna have to put some tag team titles on there for the women on, let's say, Raw." So it's an interesting thing, but yeah, I think but for Ray to say, "Yo, I'm quitting," and then Triple H is like, "Listen, man, let's figure this out. Just come to SmackDown. You can now move to SmackDown," which is a very important thing because that's an interesting nugget to say the least. I gotta see how that's gonna play out. That's an interesting thing. That's very interesting. Um, and then it goes into what other match it goes to? Shit, I want to say L.A. Knight versus whatever the fuck those dudes are called themselves. L.A. Knight is officially back. He's back, I guess. In WWE as the guy L.A. Knight. He's always been Max Dupree, but now he's L.A. Knight again. And I remember L.A. Knight when he first got to NXT, and he seemed like a heel persona. That's pretty much what he is. He's a heel persona, and he even kind of gave a little bit of a heelish persona after the match was done, and I think that was a pretty good thing. He beat the living hell out the dude that was in the ring with him. He beat the shit out of him, but he beat the shit out of him. And it wasn't really. It was more so like It was a kind of like a squash match because he really didn't have the offense. He really got his ass whooped. So yeah, it was kind of a good thing for him. Um, Boost him up, get him right, and keep pushing him forward. And then what it leads to? It leads to the 6 woman tag team match, which is Damage Control, like I just said, women's tag team titles. So they get to go on both brands. They can do whatever they want to do. Bailey is a part of that, so she moves with them. She goes with them. Versus Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez, and NXT's Roxy Perez, and it was a pretty good match. I'm not gonna say like it's not gonna. It was a really good match for six women, and we don't really. If you don't watch NXT, then you probably are like, yo, who's this little girl out there with these 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 friggin' professionals? It's like the girl's like 4'8", like maybe. I'd be giving her like a couple of inches. Like it's like, and the match was good. It was actually a good six-way women's tag team match. It was actually pretty good. It builds up the next week's match between Shotzi Raquel Rodriguez versus Damage Control for the women's tag team titles, which is a good thing. I think it's a pretty good thing, and I actually think they're gonna swap eventually. Maybe Roxy Perez and Aaliyah, who had been on the roster, and then she's been injured for the last couple of, I guess, months and stuff. That's why she's not with Raquel Rodriguez anymore. Which is a cool, which is, it sucks to lose your spot like that, though. It's got to. But Triple H has always liked Shotzi in NXT. He always liked Raquel Rodriguez in NXT. She was going by Raquel Gonzalez in NXT. They always liked each other. And it seems like that is the same sentiment here. And it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. Um, and that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a good thing. Which leads to Hit Row versus I don't want to fuck up their name. Uh, but and this new team beat the shit out of Hero. That's the first time Hero I think lost on. Maybe you lost on since they've been moved up to the roster. Uh, yeah, and they lose to a former NXT rival, which they've been beefing with since NXT, and it makes sense that they would lose to them. Because they need to beat somebody that they one have chemistry with. They've already had squared off a lot, and they need to boost that profile up. So it makes sense. And then I think they had the Viking Raiders, which I hope Triple H changed their fucking name. Good God, the Viking Raiders. You can't have two NFL teams as your fucking name in WWE. It just doesn't work out that way. Change it back to the the War Raiders, and this I'll be like, that makes sense. Like change it back to the War Raiders, and I'm like, that makes sense. But there's also a return for Sarah Logan, who is pretty cool. You know, if you know anything about her, she was a part of Riot Squad with Liv Morgan and Ruby Riot. So it's like that's a pretty cool thing. And if she does come back to join her husband in their group, that'd be a pretty interesting faction moving forward. Speaking of Liv Morgan, she beat the living hell out of Sonya Deville. Goes through a table, and I like this though. I think that this is the best thing for her because this doesn't hurt her career after losing to Ronda. I mean, you had a lot of people lose to Ronda Rousey, but I think this is the difference between a Vince and a Triple H because if she lost to Ronda Rousey under the Vince McMahon, you would just throw it back to the pack and you would give a shit about it. She'd be like, okay, we had our time with her. It was fun. Let's move on to the next fucking thing. And you just don't care about it anymore. The fact that Triple H is still pushing her, he's still like, nope, she's still gonna be a forefront in this situation and she lost to Ronda, but I think Liv's actually the one that's going to actually have the better run out of the situation because let's be real, if she joins Bray Wyatt, that's a way different conversation. So yeah, I like the, the kind of in between with her right now. It's pretty good to have her be in between with the situations, and then it goes into the fatal four way. Like I said, Karrion Kross is supposed to be a part of this match. Rey Mysterio comes out and takes his place. Ricochet, Sheamus, Solo Sakara. It's a great fucking match, like always. Those four guys, especially when you put Rey Mysterio and Ricochet in a match, Ricochet literally studied Rey Mysterio. That is literally his favorite wrestler. He's literally has said this. So to see those two men go back and forth, that was pretty cool. And of course, Solo Sakara and Sheamus, who's two heavy hitters. You got two guys that's flying all across the ring and two guys that just want to beat the living hell out of you. It's gonna make for some good fucking TV. So, and then Sheamus is beating the hell out of everybody. He's about to win the match, and then out of nowhere, holy shit, Jey Uso pops up. And then Sami Zayn pops up, and then They jump Sheamus. They just jump Sheamus, which brings out the brawling brutes, and it just breaks into a huge brawl. Six people just go up the walkway. You forget that it's two other people in the fucking ring. Ricochet and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio hit a fucking move on Ricochet I've never seen. Which Ricochet is pretty fucking good at how to contort his body and shit. So it's kind of like, damn, that shit was crazy. It looked like he fucking landed on his head, his neck and shit. It was like, god damn. But he put the brakes on and he got the move, and Ray hits him with the 619. Frog splash, wins the match, and now he's gonna be fighting Gunter. Now listen, I think Gunter's gonna beat the living shit out of Rey Mysterio. Don't get it twisted, but Rey Mysterio is a legend, and if Ray does win the Intercontinental title, that brings in an interesting dilemma for WWE going forward, because I don't think he's gonna win it, because let's be real, I think Sheamus and Gunter should fight one more time for the Intercontinental title, because let's be real, yes, he beat him in a Clash at the Castle, but he didn't really beat him last Friday on Smackdown. He didn't. Sheamus beat him. Sheamus beat him. so so and then he beat them. Then Brawling Brutes beat Imperium at Extreme Rules. So it makes sense if Sheamus does get the opportunity to dethrone uh, Walter eventually, and I'm looking forward to it. And then it goes into, of course, the ending, and that is the one and only Bray Wyatt coming back and actually speaking. And you could see that, and I don't know how this character is gonna be. This is an interesting thing about this. Bray comes out and kind of gives a real passionate promo, and it's like, yo, he's really like, yo, this is really me. I'm speaking from my heart. I really want to thank you guys for supporting me and keeping me going when I didn't believe in myself and I didn't see the point of coming back. And then it kind of cuts into his alter ego, whoever the hell this new guy is. He kind of cuts in, and he's just like, yo, you have no idea what you just done. I don't care about the past. I don't give a shit about the future. I'm coming to fuck some shit up. It is like, okay. like, okay, that's cool. like, all in all, again, SmackDown figures it out, man. SmackDown just always wins. Maybe because it's a 2 hour show, so 1 hour is reserved for this bullshit, and the next hour is reserved for this bullshit. And we're gonna find a way to crash in the middle. It's going to work. SmackDown just works, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe they need to put Raw back at 2 hours, because that shit. Something about Raw kind of not now, but it's still something about Raw that just you kind of just be like, you don't get this shit. It's like eventually you start watching football and shit. You like, I catch that shit later. Excuse me, because it's 3 fucking hours. It's too fucking long, and I'm starting to realize like that might be the fucking downfall for Raw. Even though Raw's really good now, it's just like, do you need 3 hours? Do we really need 3 hours? Eh, eh. Um, Speaking of Raw, Raw happened. It was the season premiere, which again, I don't know how WWE calls season premieres when you are literally a brand that goes 365 days a year. That's weird, but okay, season premiere. Um, so season premiere Raw. Uh, the first thing we see in the intro, the beginning of Raw, is the Bloodline. Yeah, see, I had to yawn because I'm tired of the Bloodline too. Um, But the bloodline comes out. Like I said, Roman Reigns did not appear tonight on SmackDown because he made his appearance on Raw, and that's cool. Yeah, whatever. Um, but he comes out with the entire bloodline: Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, the Usos, and Sami Zayn, and that's cool. They come out and they do their usual shit. I don't know what the acknowledge me shit and all that, and okay, that's cool. And then he kind of gets into it, and it's like, yo, you know, some people, if you can't be a fool and be in this bloodline. So Jay, are you a fool? And he calls out his cousin, and Roman's like, Jay steps up and Sami Zayn then steps in and say, "Hey, you know what, Roman? I got this. You know what, man? I got this." Remember when we were talking? I told you I got you. And Roman's like, you really are the honorary Uso. Go ahead and do what you gotta do, man. Talk to him. And 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 Sami Zayn then goes in on Jay Uso. He's like, "Listen, me and the Tribal Chief were talking, and we had a really good conversation. We had a really good conversation. But Jimmy's really cool, and Solo Sakara, even though he's over there standing all tough and By the way, why the fuck do y'all got Solo Sakara looking like Taz? Like, what the fuck is going on? This motherfucker got a fucking black towel over his head, just standing there mugging at people. What the fuck is going on? Is this the new Taz? What the fuck? Is Anyway, but he goes in and says, you know, we man, but we just we keep looking at you and we're just like, man, can you chill? Cause it's like, can you chill? Like, you're not acting very oozy. It's just like this movie created a whole new word. Jimmy was even like, oozy? What the fuck is that? Like, the fuck is that? It's like, it is just that alone. Like that shit is funny. It's funny, but man, um, which brings out Matt Riddle, which is an interesting thing because, like I said, Roman said that if he beats Matt Riddle a couple months ago when they fought for the title, then he never gets a title match again. But Matt beat Seth in Extreme Rules. He beat him, and it's not really anybody that you can say can kind of give Roman um a fight. It's kind of like you don't really have anybody that can give Roman a fight right now. Outside of after Crown Jewel, you kind of keep looking for somebody to give Roman a fight, and you're like, who the fuck could be? And I think Matt Riddle kind of steps up perfectly for that. TLC, you could find fill-ins for those pay-per-views. TLC, Royal Rumble, you can find some fill-ins. Um, but Riddle comes out there and starts saying, "Yo, man, I want another title match. I want a shot. I know you said I'm banned. I can't never fight you again, but I think I should get another title match here." And Jey Uso says, "You know what? Sami Zayn, he's dissing us. He going at us. How about you step up and defend the bloodline?" It's just he's like, "Yeah, I will actually step up and fight for the bloodline." And it's funny because it's just like they're using this guy. We know it's gonna happen. We know he's gonna get smashed eventually. We know this shit. But why not keep using this fucking storyline? It's a pretty interesting storyline to use, I guess, if you're gonna keep pushing that. But then it goes into you know uh then Raw always has these things, and then Johnny Gargano, Johnny Wrestling fights Austin Theory, and these two dudes, they have a lot of history clearly, and they fight, and it was a great. Now I don't get this. I thought Vince McMahon was gone. What the fuck is up with this old WWE thought process? Is like make Austin Theory lose all day. Let's just make him lose, 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 lose. He's the Money in the Bank case holder. Lose, 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 and then out of nowhere he wins the fucking titles. That would be stupid. It makes no sense. Get the fucking briefcase off of him. I said this numerous times. I'm gonna continue to say it until they fucking make their minds up with this dude. I get it if you want to keep pushing Austin Theory, but him with the briefcase makes no fucking sense. It doesn't make any sense because we all know he can't beat any of those dudes that have real contention at the titles, and it makes no sense to have him with the fucking Money in the Bank briefcase for this fucking long. But he loses to Johnny Wrestling, as he should. He should have lost. It makes no sense to make him let him win. Um, and it goes and continues to go, and Raw. It's always this thing about Raw, man. Like I said, Raw's 3 hours long, so you kind of check the fuck out eventually. You kind of check the fuck out of it a little bit. Um, which I think Rey Mysterio fought Chad Gable, and then he beat him for some reason. I don't know fucking why. When you got Judgment Day at ringside, and then his son, pretty much tells him to hit him, and he's like, "No, I'm not gonna hit you." Gets on the apron and just leaves, which brings AJ Styles out there, and and you know prompts AJ Styles to bring back Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, which is a massive fucking thing, and recreates the OC, which is a crazy fucking thing to see. which leads into what a lot of people think is going to happen at Survivor Series. Not even Crown Jewel, but Survivor Series. And that is the Judgment Day versus AJ Styles and the OC. The thing is, who is the woman you're gonna put in to fight them? And that's an interesting thing. But which leads to um, I think Bailey versus Candice LeRae, and they Candice LeRae beats Bailey, which is I get it. She lost to Bianca, so she could be just a little off her game. And I get that. Candice LeRae, you gotta keep pushing her too. You gotta keep building her. She just came from NXT, and if she beats somebody like a Bailey, that makes more sense. So it makes sense. And they jumped Bianca and Bailey and Candice LeRae, so that makes sense too. Um, which leads to the United States Championship match. Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley. But before we could get to that match, the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar comes back. Now we already know why he's back because it's clear as day he's fighting Bobby Lashley at Crown Jewel. He's going to fight Bobby Lashley at Crown Jewel. And also, you needed a reason to take the title off of Bobby Lashley because if Seth and Bobby Lashley really had a fucking fight, like a real match, it would make no sense for Bobby Lashley to lose it. He can kind of be Seth. But if you kind of beat the living shit out of him before he gets to that point, yeah, you can kind of get him to win. Now I'm not gonna say Seth does needs help or some shit, but would you rather see Bobby Lashley 100% fight Seth Rollins, who just had the fight pit match, or would you rather see Bobby Lashley, who just got his ass whooped by Brock Lesnar, fight Seth Rollins, who had the fight pit match? You see what I'm saying? It makes more sense. And Brock Lesnar did most of the fucking damage. All Seth had to do was kind of just not lose, and he didn't. Seth Rollins is not a United States champion, which is all great with me. And of course, Monday night it will be Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins for the United States Championship. Now, I don't think Seth loses the title, but if he did, that'd be a pretty fucking good match to have at Crown Jewel, a rematch for the United States Championship. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins. I'm with it. Let's do it. Um, and make that in the Hell in a Cell match. Put that in the Hell in a Cell. And let's see what happens. But yeah, Seth wins. Congratulations. I'm I'm a huge Seth Rollins fan. I think that man's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and him winning the title was all good with me. I did not care. Um, which then Matt Riddle and Sami Zayn do have their match, and Roman takes Solo Sikoa away from Jimmy and Jay, tells them, "Hey, God, the Usos, y'all gonna go out and with Sami Zayn and Jay, you better do everything in your power to get Sami Zayn that victory." And he lost. Why? Because Jay Uso says, "I thought you had him. I thought you said you didn't want my help." He's just grabbing Jimmy like, "Nah, he good. Let him fight. Let him figure that out." And he loses, which again creates this conversation of like, who do you trust more if you're Roman? Jay, who continues to show you kind of like somewhat disrespect, I guess, or Sami Zayn, who is showing you the ultimate loyalty. And somebody said I saw this on somewhere that when they were like, Jay's the only person on the the bloodline that actually had to physically get his ass in line. Like he got beat to be in the bloodline. Nobody else. Jimmy came in and Jimmy just fell in line with Roman. Yeah, a little resistance, but he never fought Roman to take the tribal chief crown. Solo Sikoa is just technically in the bloodline because that's what they told him he was in. And now Sami Zayn is just there. But Jay's the only person that physically had a chance to be the tribal chief, and he got his ass whooped. So it's just, well, he didn't get his ass whooped, but he fought and he couldn't win. So it's just like it makes sense why Jay now is kind of like starting to get that back in him, and it's like, yo, man, I'm like technically second in command. Why the fuck am I the one? that keeps getting the short end of the stick, which makes sense. So I think that's a pretty good thing. And then DX closes out the show, D Generation X, which is like legendary. And I actually appreciated this. Triple H, went through a heart procedure, and and I'm not saying I appreciated that, but I'm appreciating he had to stop himself. He's like, because he was so excited, but he forgot, like, holy shit, I gotta breathe here. I got a heart condition. I can't just be just out here just fucking doing what I used to do. And he had to breathe. And he was like, whew, hold on, I gotta catch my breath. Lord Jesus, hold on. He's like, hold on, I gotta catch my breath. Now somebody that knows how that feels when you're excited, and then it's just like, holy shit, I forgot. I gotta catch my breath. Hold on. So let me get this out. That is what I was like, wow, that's crazy. I haven't seen somebody actually have to do that before, other than myself. But like, but a figure like that actually be like, "Ooh, this is too much for me. Hold on, fuck." But yeah, that was pretty cool. Raw was pretty okay. Raw was pretty good, pretty decent. I mean, let's be real, Raw was pretty decent. Um, my assessment of these two shows is very simple. SmackDown is the A show, Raw's the B show. Nobody's gonna debate that with me, because we all know it. What I do believe, though, going forward, is people can say whatever they want to say about Bray Wyatt now being on SmackDown and not on Raw. I actually think it's better for Bray Wyatt to be on SmackDown and not on Raw. Because like tonight, like nights like tonight, where Roman Reigns just doesn't show the fuck up. You need somebody that's gonna give you that star power. As good as SmackDown is, a Bray Wyatt will push it just a little bit over the goalpost, and that's all you need. You don't need a lot. You just need something. And I think that's kind of how I look at it. And when it comes to Raw, Seth is the guy. Um, and whatever he does with the title, now that he has a championship, he has something to actually fight for and fight with. I think we're gonna see a lot of incredible matches with Seth Rollins. Now I don't know if he does the U.S. Open Challenge shit, but I think if that is WWE's thought process with Seth Rollins in his title now, you should do that. I think you should let Seth Rollins have a U.S. Open Challenge. Maybe he'd be a previous to it, but it's like every week. But at least he gives you the matches that you want. You want to see him versus Finn Balor. You want to see him versus AJ Styles. You want to see him versus Bobby Lashley. You want to see him versus Matt Riddle. Or just randomly somebody that isn't maybe even on the roster, like him versus a Carmelo Hayes. Like he could come in the NXT, come out of the NXT and just fight Seth. That'd be pretty fucking intriguing. I think that'd be pretty dope. Him and Tommaso Ciampa, who we haven't seen in a minute. Him and Johnny Gargano. We could finally see that fucking match. Like it's a lot of things you could play with that title now that Seth has it. When Bobby Lashley had it, you couldn't do that much. But with Seth, you know you're gonna get some matches that you like. Yo, this is a main event Raw match. Okay, that's pretty fucking cool. Let's do this. So, yeah, all in all, man, both shows were incredible, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Um, Probably do another one next week. I'll probably do another WWE, and I don't probably won't do a review. I'll probably just talk about what's coming up, Crown Jewel and Survivor Series, as they continue to approach, and yeah, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.